And you mentioned a lot about outer and inner success and like the arrival, fallacy. I certainly experienced that firsthand. I slaved over and built my first company.
Yeah.
I had I sold a company and then I thought it was all bliss. I thought it was all, just gonna be just amazing. And, I actually found myself in a really dark place shortly after because my identity was so wrapped up into the role that I was playing there, who I was as a clinician, as a CEO. And it took me a long time to kind of navigate through what is this that I'm actually encountering, and why am I experiencing what I'm experiencing, and why hasn't it turned out the way that I thought,
Yeah.
and we talk about the false idea that money cannot buy meaning, and you start to really go down this rabbit hole of really exploring now more inwardly who is my true identity. And I think it has a lot to similarities of what you're talking about with this dharma concept. And so can you talk a little
Yeah.
bit about, like how how you view outer success and inner success and this whole interplay?
Yeah. I mean, so the arrival fallacy was coined by Dr. Tal Ben Shahar, who, basically said, look, when we sort of are conditioned to believe that we're going to reach this moment of arrival, when we're going to feel complete. We're going to feel sort of this lasting sense of joy. We're going to finally have enough money in the bank. We're going to finally have enough status, enough respect in the eyes of our peers, where we're finally going to feel like, hey, we're good now. And of course, that never happens, right? As soon as we hit one milestone, the goalpost moves again. And that can be for big things. It can be for smaller things as well. It could be getting that next deal or getting the next promotion or getting the next car, whatever it is. But we feel like these things that are supposed to bring us more of a lasting sense of happiness, they're actually quite short lived. They're actually quite temporary. And the result of this is that we constantly find ourselves on this almost hedonic treadmill where we're constantly pursuing this next thing. And that can be exhausting, right? Now, does that mean that we abandon our drive? Does that mean that we don't want goals in life? Absolutely not. And goals are what I think give us fuel. They make us sort of thrive. They give us something to aim for, and there's something very healthy about all of that as well. And then the question is, where are we deriving our sense of joy and happiness? Is our sense of happiness and joy being derived from hitting those milestones, or is it being derived from something else? And that is the difference between outer success and inner success. So if outer success is the achievements, it's the hitting of the goals, it's the earning of the money, then inner success is really about sort of the joy of having done the thing in the first place. It's the day to day, it's the everyday, the nitty gritty, and even, even the stuff that doesn't sometimes seem as pleasant. Can we find a sense of joy even in those moments as well? And that's not always an easy thing. That is candidly what I struggled with, right? Like when I was running my company, this time the company that actually worked, I was in the grind of the day to day, but what was sort of keeping me going was this idea that we was going to hit this moment when we were going to be able to exit the company and we were going to be able to get it to a certain scale. And that's the thing that sort of fueled me. But I have to say, it was very cheap fuel, meaning every single day felt like a grind. I was wearing myself into the ground. And if I look back on those 3.5, 4 years when we were building up the company, they weren't very enjoyable. And sure, the end was a good result, but I could have enjoyed that time so much more with a different lens on how I looked at like what was the process of it all. Like this idea of enjoying the process.
Right.
And by the way, like isn't it amazing how like, all this stuff that we hear about even on like the sports fields here in the West are like echoed into like ancient Eastern wisdom. Like we're all saying the same thing, which is that, as cliche as it sounds, it is about the journey. It's not about the destination. But what I hoped to do with the book was to really sort of break that down to some very, very fundamental techniques. What are some things that we can put into practice right away to actually be able to derive success every single day, to feel like we're experiencing joy and success again, even through the things that don't necessarily go our way?
Yeah. Maybe start to unpack some of that for us as it relates specifically to wellness and well-being, because it's very loaded and it takes
Yeah.
us to wellness and well-being.